Hey everyone, and welcome back to Aspire and Act. Today we're tackling something that I think we can all relate to. A
Mhm.
struggle of setting and actually achieving goals.
Yeah,
I know for me personally, sometimes that whole process can feel kind of overwhelming,
for sure.
even defeating.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We all start out with these great intentions, but then life happens.
Right.
And sometimes those goals start to feel, well, a little impossible.
Exactly. So to help us all out with this, we're taking a deep dive into one of Ben's latest blog posts
Okay.
called Reasons Why People Fail at Setting Goals.
Mm,
It's packed with insights, and it's posted up on aspireandact.com.
great.
And aspireandact.com. Rising above discouragement, proving your worth.
Yeah.
And just a reminder to our listeners that you can also find Ben over on our YouTube channel at Aspire and Act.
He does a fantastic job of breaking down some of the most common pitfalls.
Yeah,
And better yet, he offers practical tips on how to avoid them.
right. So let's jump right in. Ben starts off by talking about something that seems super basic, but is honestly the foundation for successful goal setting.
Uh,
The SMART method.
the SMART method.
You've heard us talk about this before, I'm sure.
I mean, how many times have we all heard about SMART goals?
Right.
It's easy to just tune it out,
Yeah.
but there's a reason it's repeated so often.
Yeah.
It actually works.
I know specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound,
Right.
but sometimes even knowing the acronym,
Yeah.
it's hard to put it into practice.
Totally. But think about it this way.
Okay.
Let's say your goal is, I want to be healthier.
Okay.
Okay, great. But what does that actually look like?
Yeah.
What are you going to do to be healthier?
Mm-hmm.
How will you track your progress?
Okay.
A SMART goal takes that vague wish and turns it into a concrete plan.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week for the next 3 months.
Okay.
See the difference?
Oh, yeah.
You've made it specific, measurable, and time-bound.
Okay. Yeah, it's like having a GPS versus just wandering around hoping you'll magically end up at your destination.
Precisely.
I get it.
And that brings us to the juicy stuff, the pitfalls.
Okay.
Ben outlines 10 common goal-setting pitfalls that can seriously sabotage our success.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, some of them are so sneaky.
Over.
They trip us up without us even realizing it.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's hear about these sneaky pitfalls.
Okay.
What's the first one we need to watch out for?
Pitfall number 1 is setting goals that are just way too big.
Okay.
Too unrealistic. Like, I'm all for dreaming big,
Yeah.
but wanting to lose, let's say, 50 pounds in 2 months,
Oh, wow.
that's probably setting yourself up for failure and a whole lot of discouragement.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
It's like trying to run a marathon without any training.
Yeah.
I tried that once. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
What would you suggest we do instead of setting these huge, overwhelming goals?
Break it down into smaller, more achievable steps.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on losing 50 pounds,
Yeah.
what if you aim for 5 pounds this month? Or maybe you commit to swapping out sugary drinks for water 5 days a week.
Oh, I like that. It feels way less intimidating, and those smaller wins can really build your momentum, right?
Absolutely. You're way more likely to stick with it if you're seeing progress along the way. Okay. Pitfall number 2 is kind of the opposite, not setting enough goals.
Wait, so you're saying we should actually be setting more goals? I thought the key was to simplify.
It's not about creating more stress. It's about having a balanced goal portfolio, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Think about different areas of your life.
Yeah.
Health, career, relationships, personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have one major goal for each area and then some smaller supporting goals underneath.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's like having a main course and some delicious side dishes to make it a complete meal.
Great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, pitfall number 3 is a big one.
Okay.
And I think this is something a lot of us struggle with.
Uh-huh.
Thinking that willpower is all you need to achieve your goals.
Oh, tell me about it.
Ah.
Remember that time I tried to pull an all-nighter to finish editing that podcast episode?
Oh, yeah.
I had all the willpower in the world,
Yeah.
but my brain was basically fried. I ended up falling asleep with my headphones on.
We've all been there. And Ben's point is that willpower alone just isn't enough.
Yeah.
You need planning, you need strategies, systems in place to support your goals.
Okay.
It's like having a fancy sports car. All that horsepower won't get you anywhere without a skilled driver and a good map.
Okay, so we've got to have a plan, not just rely on sheer willpower to get us through. Makes sense. What's the next pitfall on Ben's list?
Pitfall number 4 is a sneaky one. Setting goals for other people instead of ourselves.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I can see how that could happen. Maybe you feel pressure from family or society to achieve certain things.
Right.
even if they're not truly aligned with your own desires.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in what we think we should be doing or
Yeah.
what others expect of us.
Right.
For example, let's say you decide to go for a promotion at work, mainly because your parents keep bugging you about making more money. Is that really your goal? Or are you trying to please someone else?
Right. And I bet if you don't genuinely care about the goal, it's going to be way harder to stay motivated. It's like running a race you didn't even sign up for.
Exactly. And that actually leads us perfectly into pitfall number 5, which is trying to do everything at once without taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in that hustle culture mentality
Right.
and think we have to be constantly pushing ourselves to the limit. But as Ben points out, self-care isn't selfish. It's absolutely essential for achieving our goals.
You know, I have to admit, I'm totally guilty of this.
Mm-hmm.
There have been times when I've tried to juggle a million things at once.
Oh, yeah.
Like launching a new project,
Yeah.
learning a new skill,
Yeah.
and training for a half marathon, all while trying to maintain some semblance of a social life.
Oh, wow.
Guess what?
Eh,
It didn't end well.
I bet.
I ended up burnt out
Yeah.
and feeling totally defeated.
It's a classic recipe for burnout, isn't it?
Yeah.
We think we can just power through,
Yeah.
but our bodies and minds can only handle so much. Ben stresses the importance of building self-care into our routines
Right.
so we can recharge and stay focused.
Okay.
That means making sure you're getting enough sleep, eating nutritious foods, managing stress, all those things that keep our engines running.
I think that's such a good point, especially in today's fast-paced world.
Okay.
Okay, what's next on Ben's list of goal-setting saboteurs?
Pitfall number 6 is having unrealistic expectations about what you can actually achieve in a given time frame.
Okay.
It's important to be honest with yourself about how much you can realistically take on.
Oh, yeah. I used to be the queen of overscheduling. I'd pack my to-do list so full that it was basically guaranteeing I'd feel disappointed at the end of the day.
It's like trying to cram a week's worth of luggage into a tiny overnight bag. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Ben suggests that when we set a goal, we really think through all the steps involved
Yeah.
and be realistic about how long each one will take.
It's almost like we need to give ourselves permission to slow down a bit, right?
Yeah.
Set ourselves up for success, not for stress.
Absolutely. And that leads us to pitfall number 7, giving up too easily when you don't see results right away.
It's like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to see if it's sprouted.
Yeah.
We need to be patient and
Yeah.
trust the process.
Yes. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither are most of our goals, right? It takes time, effort, and consistency.
So true. What's the next pitfall we should be on the lookout for?
Number 8 is not taking enough time to plan and think through each step of the goal-setting process.
Okay.
It's not enough to just have the goal. You've got to map out how you're actually going to get there.
So it's not just about what you want to achieve,
Right.
but how you're going to achieve it, right?
Yeah.
Having a clear roadmap.
Precisely. Ben uses a great example of this.
Okay.
He says if your goal is to save money, but you haven't actually sat down and created a budget,
Right.
how will you know how much you can realistically set aside each month?
Yep.
Or if your goal is to write a book, have you thought about your writing schedule, your outline, how you're going to do your research?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I can see how jumping in without a plan could quickly lead to feeling overwhelmed and lost.
Yeah.
It's like setting off on a road trip without checking the map or packing any snacks.
Right.
You're bound to get lost and hungry.
Exactly. A little planning can go a long way.
Okay, pitfall number 9, and this one's close to my heart, is having a negative attitude towards goal setting.
Oh, man.
Have
I
you-
know some people like that. They're all like, goals are pointless, or I'm just going to fail anyway. Like
Yeah.
they've already decided they can't do it before they even start.
It's almost like self-sabotage, isn't
Yeah.
it? And Ben really emphasizes how important it is to cultivate a positive mindset around goal setting. If you're constantly telling yourself you're going to fail, guess what? You're probably right.
Yeah.
But if you believe in yourself and your ability to achieve your goals, even if it takes a few tries, you're way more likely to succeed. It's all about that positive self-talk. Believing in yourself and the power of possibility. Okay, we've made it to the final pitfall on Ben's list. What is it?
Number 10 kind of ties into a few of the others, and it's simply giving up too easily.
Okay.
We hit a small obstacle and think, well, guess this isn't for me.
I think we've all been there at some point, right?
Yeah.
You encounter a setback, and it's tempting to just throw in the towel.
But as Ben reminds us, setbacks are a normal part of the process.
Yeah.
The key is to view them as learning opportunities, not reasons to quit.
I love that.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I give up,
Yeah.
it's more like, okay, that didn't work.
Right.
What can I learn from this and how can I adjust my approach?
Exactly. It's about developing that resilience, that grit, that determination to keep going even when things get tough. It's about remembering why you set the goal in the first place and letting that motivate you to keep pushing forward.
I think that's such a powerful message, and it really ties back to what we were talking about earlier with self-care and having realistic expectations.
Yeah.
It's about being kind to ourselves, right? Acknowledging that setbacks are inevitable, and that's okay. It's what we do after those setbacks that really matters.
I completely agree. It's about learning from our mistakes, adjusting our course, and keeping our eyes on the prize.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've unpacked 10 common goal-setting pitfalls that Ben outlines in his blog post.
And more importantly, we've talked about some practical ways to overcome those pitfalls and set ourselves up for success.
Exactly. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the key takeaways. What really stood out to you from Ben's post?
For me, it was the emphasis on having a clear plan
Yeah.
and breaking down those big, audacious goals into smaller, more manageable steps. That really resonated with me.
Me too. And I think Ben's point about self-care really hit home for me too. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to take care of ourselves. But in the end, that just leads to burnout and makes it even harder to reach our goals.
It's like trying to run a car on an empty tank.
Yeah.
You can't expect to perform at your best if you're not taking care of your physical and mental well-being.
Love that analogy. I also really appreciate what Ben had to say about having a positive attitude. It's not just about the mechanics of setting goals. It's about cultivating a mindset of belief and possibility.
It's about that inner game believing in yourself and your ability to achieve what you set out to do.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, what's one piece of actionable advice you would give to our listeners who might be feeling stuck in their goal-setting journey?
I think it would be to focus on the why behind your goals.
Okay.
Why is this goal important to you? What will achieving it bring to your life? Remembering your why can be incredibly motivating,
Yeah,
especially when you encounter those inevitable setbacks.
that's such a great point. When you're clear about why you're working towards something, it makes it easier to stay committed even when things get tough.
It's true, and it can also help you make better decisions about how you're going to achieve your goals.
Right.
If you know what's truly important to you, you're less likely to get sidetracked by things that don't really matter.
So to recap, we've talked about the importance of setting smart goals, breaking them down into smaller steps, having a solid plan, taking care of ourselves, and cultivating a positive attitude. We've also explored some of the common pitfalls that can trip us up along the way. But more importantly, I think we've armed ourselves with some practical strategies to overcome those pitfalls and create lasting change.
Exactly. And remember, achieving goals is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
And we're all in this together.
So true. And don't forget, if you want to dive deeper into this topic, you can check out Ben's full blog post on our website, aspireandact.com. We'll also include a link in the show notes. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at @AspireAndAct for more inspiring content from Ben and the rest of the Aspire and Act crew.
We're always adding new videos and blog posts, all designed to help you aspire and, of course, act.
That's right. Until next time, keep aspiring, keep acting, and keep reaching for those stars.